Hello and welcome back to Bodyweight Calisthenics Home, which is a YouTube channel dedicated to my personal bodyweight calisthenics transformation, which started 2 months ago. And I'm 2 months in now, and it's true to say that I've learned so much more in the last 2 months since I got started than I ever did in the run-up to getting started. And in this video, I'm going to share with you my top 20 key reflections or learning points. So if you're a beginner to calisthenics or any exercise routine, then this video is for you. Also, if you're an expert and you've been doing this for some time, I would love your observations in the comments below. And I know many of you are experts, and I have about 450 subscribers on my channel now in the space of only 2 months. And it's those subscribers, it's you out there, and I could name several of you, but there are so many who have given me so many of these amazing tips and advice. Now, one thing I would say before I get started on my 20 tips is I learn in different ways. You can learn by reading, you can learn by watching videos, but for me, the learning really only got started when I started my workout routines. It's a bit like learning to drive, I suppose. I think you learn more after you pass your test than you ever do in that theory running up to when you pass your test and then you get started on the road. So here goes. Here are my top 20 tips and observations for beginners from a beginner, and I hope you enjoy them. If you want to track my journey, please do subscribe and hit the notifications bell. While I'm speaking, I'll run some video of my workouts next to me in the corner of the screen. So my first tip really is just to get started. Start now. Don't wait. Don't think, oh, well, I'll do it when I've learned a bit more about it, or I'm not quite ready yet. Just find a way of getting started, because you will learn everything you need to know from the moment you start. So that's tip number one, but also always be learning. And if you want to think about ways of learning about calisthenics, then obviously watch videos like this, watch hundreds of other videos like this, and also read the comments below those videos, because that's where a lot of the conversation takes place. But in the main, just get started. My second observation and tip is, once you do get started, you're probably going to feel quite sore after your first workout. And that soreness might last for 4 days. I know mine did. It was almost impossible for me to move the day after my first workout, and it was at least 4 days before I was able to get back in the gym. But don't worry about that, because that's a good sign. That's a sign that your body is responding to the stimulus of exercise. So don't let it put you off. In a way, try and enjoy the pain, but then get back out in the gym. And you'll probably find, like I did, that the pain after the second workout only lasted for 3 days. And now I'm getting soreness after my workout, but I'm back in the gym 2 days later. So be aware, whilst you feel sore, it's a good thing. Don't let it put you off. So my second tip is, don't let small bumps in the road put you off track and stop you from carrying on. So for example, I've had Christmas and I've also had a really bad cold in the last 2 months since I got started. And on both those occasions, I could quite easily have put my workouts to one side. I think you've got to be single-minded and determined, because other people's objectives don't tie in with your objectives. So it's up to you to own it and decide and get back out there into the gym. Don't let little bumps in the road like Christmas or a bad cold stop you from getting back on the wagon and carrying on. My third tip is about motivation. It can be a very lonely job doing a workout at home, and I'm aware that most people that start home workouts don't continue. So my tip and my piece of advice is to either go to a gym or get a gym buddy, or do it with someone else, or get a personal trainer. Now, I'm very lucky because I've got 450 subscribers on my channel, and I see every one of those subscribers, and you know who you are, who give me regular tips and advice and encouragement. I see them as my gym buddy, and my YouTube channel is holding me to account and forcing me back out there into the gym on a day like this when it's snowing outside and the gym is -2 degrees. I'm doing it because I've got that holding to account, that accountability, which you will get from a gym buddy or a personal trainer. So my next tip is get a gym buddy or a personal trainer. My next tip is, don't have any doubts about the fact that it works, because it works, and it only works. If you go out to a gym or you go to a gym and you do some work, it will pay off. Don't let any doubts creep into your mind that it's pointless or it's not doing anything, if you stay at it consistently for the space of a month or even 2 months like I've done, you will start to see and feel and observe results. And I even took measurements at the beginning, I'll come back to that in a second, and I've got proof that it works. So just believe in your mind and your heart that it only works. So keep going, keep at it, and know that the results are just around the corner. My next point is be consistent, especially with your workouts. Now, this is a little chart of all the workouts I've done, and you can see there's my bad cold and here's Christmas. But even so, I've come back to the gym and I've been consistent and I've carried on. I'm now averaging 3 workouts a week. So be consistent, be determined, be decisive, take ownership, and go out there and do your workouts consistently. Now, despite the fact that I've just spoken about the workouts and putting the effort in and really driving yourself hard, my next point is about rest and sleep. It's essential to get rest and sleep, because one thing I've learned in my 2 months is the muscle grows on the rest days. And if you don't get your rest, your muscle can't recover and recuperate and build back stronger. So don't be tempted to do a workout every day, because it's going to be counterproductive. Have your rest, get your sleep, work on getting better sleep. I've put a lot of time and effort into working on how I can get better sleep. I've even done a video on it. I'll put the link in the box at the end of this one. But rest is essential. Rest is key. Now, my next point is another one of those that's not about the workout. And you soon learn when you start calisthenics or probably any other strength or muscle building routine that it's more than just the workout. I've already mentioned that it's the workout. I've already spoken about motivation. I've spoken about rest and how important rest is. But another thing that is really, really important is diet and nutrition and protein. The body needs protein to build muscle. That's a fact. It can't be avoided. You can't go and do workout after workout and try and break down your muscles and get hypertrophy if you're not going to give your body the protein it needs to do the repairs. So what I've decided to do is I've decided to count my calories, count the protein, and it's easy for you to check the protein on every single food product. I'm trying to have whole foods. I'm trying to have clean foods like fruit and veg and non-processed foods. But diet, nutrition, and protein is absolutely essential. This game of calisthenics is multifaceted, and I would say it's at least 50% diet and nutrition. Now, the next key point I learned was when you go out into the gym, and I think this came from old Natty in the States. When you go out into the gym, hit the biggest muscle group first. Hit the hardest muscle group first whilst you're fresh. So if it happens to be reverse rows or press ups and they're the hardest part of your routine, do that first so you're doing it while you're fresh and you're not fatigued. And that way you'll be able to push yourself to failure or progressive overload and hypertrophy. So hit the big muscle groups first and then carry on with the slightly lesser muscle groups after that. My next point is about failure and progressive overload. And when I say failure, I mean that point where you can't do any more and your muscles fail to respond to the stimulation. You just can't do another press up. Now, I was confused at first. Do I always have to go to failure? Is it important to get failure? Will you not build muscles if you don't go to failure? And the fact is that I've learned from so many different experts is that you do not always have to go to failure. Sometimes it's better to just try and judge it so that you're going one before failure. You'll still get a result, you'll still get hypertrophy, you'll still get strength growth and muscle growth. But by not going to failure every time, you're allowing yourself the opportunity to push yourself a little bit further on the next set or in the next workout. So don't over egg the idea of going to failure every time. It's not necessary. And whilst we're talking about failure, my next point is about being mindful about the risk of injury. Now, I'm 55, so I think the older you get, the higher the risk of injury. I remember when I was younger, I could spring up and do all kinds of things. And I know for a fact that now if I start springing up, there's a risk that I'll either pull a tendon or a muscle. So be mindful of the risk of injury. Always do your warm-ups, always do your cool downs, always rest in between your workouts. Eat the right level of protein. Do your stretching, work on your flexibility, and also another thing that is key is work on your core. Now there's a tendency through vanity or whatever reason to just think, right, well, I'll just do my shoulders and my chest and my back. But never neglect your core, because the core, your abdomen, is the thing that stabilizes everything. And by having a stable core, you avoid the risk or reduce the risk of injury. So be mindful of the risk of injury. My next point is also about motivation and keeping it interested, but there's also a technical side to this point, and that is about varying it and changing it up and doing different exercises in different workouts. And this will stimulate the muscle groups in different ways and get a different response. The point being is, for example, if I want to do my back, I could either do pull-ups to a bar or reverse rows. If I want to do my chest, I could do press-ups on the floor, or I could do some dips, which is chest and triceps. The point about this is, but to keep it interesting, perhaps do an alternate one in a different workout. You're still exercising the same compound muscle group, and you're giving it a slightly different stimulus. You're also keeping it interested in your mind. So change it up, vary it up, change it around a bit to stay interested. Now, here's another tip for you. And if you're anything like me, this is something you'll struggle with. Be patient. There's a tendency to want the results to come overnight. I've been doing this 2 months now. Why aren't I Arnold Schwarzenegger already? Well, the fact is, it's going to take more than 2 months to change 10 years of a sedentary lifestyle. Also, with age, things take longer. So be patient, but do know, as I've said earlier, do know in your mind and your heart that it only works. If you carry on doing it, it only works. Another key thing, which is a reflection, which has actually slightly changed my opinion from when I started, is do take measurements. Take measurements when you start. Take physical measurements of your body, your weight, your body fat composition. Do take them and keep them as a record of the moment you start, and know that it's only ever going to get better from that moment on. But as a note of caution, don't become obsessed with those measurements, because it can be self-defeating, because it can be a source of disappointment. If, for example, one measurement, say your chest, doesn't go up immediately, you might start to feel disheartened and disappointed. Or a measurement might go backwards. That's how it works. You might get 2 steps forwards and 1 step back. So whilst it's a good idea to have measurements, I've learned quite early on that don't be obsessed with those measurements. So my approach now is, I've got those measurements from day one. I'm going to set little benchmarks. For example, when I can do 3 sets of press-ups on the floor, I'll do my chest again. And that's exactly what I did. And I found that it had gone from 37.5 inches to 41 inches. And I won't measure it again for another 2 months, but there's definite results coming on there. So take your measurements, but don't become over-obsessed with your measurements. It's more important to know how you feel about it, and how excited about it you are, and how it's making your life change in positive ways. And occasionally you might just get a friend or a family member saying, you look different, there's something going on, you're working out. And that's happened to me. So all those things should be the things that you measure yourself by, not necessarily just a tape measure. Now the next thing I'm going to tell you about is, I'm just going to give you an instruction really, and that is to find out and understand about progressive overload and hypertrophy and failure, and what that means. Do some research. I'm not going to explain it all in this video because it's too big a subject, but once you learn what that's all about and you understand the mechanism by which the body responds and gets stronger, it will help you and it will inform your workouts. So if you don't already know about progressive overload and hypertrophy and failure and intensity of sets, then go away and find out that knowledge. Find out by watching videos and also reading the comments below other people's videos, or read a book. Do whatever you need to do, but understand that subject. And when you think you understand it, apply it to your practice. Okay, so put that knowledge into practice, and that will help it to kind of bed in your brain. My next one is about consistency of workouts and how you can do that. And I've got this saying, because I've kind of worked in the world of business, that which can be measured can be managed. Log your workouts, and by having a visual log of your workouts, you'll know that you're carrying on doing them. You'll also know if you're not doing them, and that will help you to stay on track. It's important to keep a track and a log of your workouts. Now, the other thing that I do is, apart from logging when I've done my workouts, I also log what I've done in each and every workout. I keep a log of every exercise I do, when I've done it, what I've achieved. And then my basic approach to this really is, if I've done 10 press-ups, 3 sets of 10 press-ups in one workout, the next time I'll aim to do 1 set of 11 and 2 sets of 10, or even 2 sets of 11 and a 10, or even 3 sets of 11. And that's progression. And by keeping a log like this one, a simple paper log, some people do it on app, I'm quite happy with the paper approach, you will see the progression. And by default, by definition, that progression means you're getting stronger. And again, by default, you can't get stronger without having more muscle mass. So keep a log of your workouts and keep a log of what you do in each of your workouts. I'm getting to the end of my tips now. I think this is tip number 19. So tip number 19 is realize and understand that a set doesn't have to be 12 repetitions. I came to this thinking that I had to do 3 sets of 12, and that's wrong. It really depends on your objectives, because I've learned this thing that if you're doing lots of repetitions in your sets, you're probably going to gain muscle. But if you do a low number of repetitions in your sets, you'll gain strength. So it depends on your objective. And actually, a set can consist of 1 repetition. And you might do that several times. And it could be a very high intensity repetition, and that will build your strength. Alternatively, you might go for a set of 12 repetitions, and you might get to failure towards the end of that set. And that failure will lead to hypertrophy, which will lead to your muscles growing back bigger and stronger. In other words, bigger muscles. So it really depends on your objective, whether it be strength or muscle growth or a mixture of the two. And why not vary it up? Why not go for strength, low rep, high intensity one day, or muscle growth the next routine? So it really is up to you. But understand, the point of this point is really a rep doesn't have to be 12. It can be as low as 1. My final point, my final reflection in this list of 20 reflections, and there are hundreds of others, it's not an exhaustive list. You learn so much when you're doing this. You learn about your workout, you also learn about your motivation, and you learn about yourself and your mind. But this point is about motivation, and that is, on a day like today when it's snowing and it's freezing and I want to stay in the house, you've got to really understand why you want to do it. What are your reasons why? What are your motivations? Not what are everyone else's motivations. What are your personal motivations? One of the first things I did was sit down with a piece of paper and write down all the reasons in very clear detail as to why I wanted to do this. And I asked myself the question why several times. Well, I want to have bigger muscles. Well, why do I want to have bigger muscles? Well, I want to look better. Well, why do I want to look better? And so by really probing and exploring those deep reasons and motivations why I want to do this, I've now got a piece of paper which I can refer back to on a day like today when I've got to go out to the gym and you've got to do your workout. So understanding your whys and your motivations is really key. So there you go, 20 or so reflections, learning points, observations, tips and advice for beginners from me, Mark, Bodyweight Calisthenics Home. I hope you've enjoyed that. Please do subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and don't forget to comment below. I'm about to go outside now and do workout number 20. And I'm going to include in that workout some of the things I've learned since the last workout. I'm also going to be putting a new flag in my worldwide map of subscribers. Someone in Czechia has subscribed. Isn't that wonderful? I'll see you soon.